Hey everybody, John Malanca here with United Patients Group. Be informed and be well. And today's guest, I have Joshua Cameron. How are you doing, Joshua?
Hey, I'm doing awesome. Hey, thanks so much for holding the space, John. This is
I,
great.
I do appreciate you coming on. For our audience, who've been with us for got close to a decade now, or actually over a decade. I work with a lot in the health and wellness realm as well, and so that's why I wanted to have Joshua on. Excuse me, Joshua. Joshua Cameron. He's an elite trained master healer whose purpose is helping those who have lived with chronic debilitating pain find relief and begin living their lives with joy, gratitude, as well as renewed energy. Joshua is blessed with the gift that has helped his clients heal from chronic pain due to compacted spinal vertebrae, arthritis, severe heart conditions, as well as even cervical dystonia, helping relieve this extreme pain for many of his patients today. And so, thanks for doing that. We had a conversation prior to setting this up, and we talked about a lot of how strong the mind is. Uh,
Mm,
and how you can help that in anything we do. But in this case, talking about trauma and pain throughout the body. And so let me go right into the first one. How unresolved trauma is creating chronic pain in your body. Can you talk about that? Because I know a lot of patients that we work with, it just seems like it's a domino effect and domino effect and domino effect. And when my wife Corinne passed from pancreatic cancer. Speaking to a lot of doctors and specialists, they said, "What happened in trauma 20 years prior?" And so I remember working with her and doing meditation, mindfulness, breathing, but really trying to go back to what is some unresolved trauma in her life. She's like, "I really don't have any." So that's kind of the $1 million question. But what with your patients and your clients? How does unresolved trauma really affect as well as create chronic pain in bodies? If you can talk about that, please.
yeah, great. I appreciate the question. And, I think that it's important to realize that what I'm going to be talking about and describing is a map, right? This isn't necessarily the way the truth with a capital T, because ultimately I don't think anyone has the truth with a capital T. But if you think of the mind as a dimension above the body, and so often when we've got these negative voices and negative thoughts in our heads, especially as men, right,
Yeah.
we're taught to rub some dirt on it, right? Boys don't cry, and hold it in. And as women, well, if you're going to be professional, well, then if you cry, well, you're going to show weakness, right? And so we're supposed to hold it in. When we hold it in, what we do is we shove it down. And if we're shoving it down, well, if the mind's the dimension above the body, well, then all that, I mean, all of our thoughts, everything is energy. And we're just funneling that energy and shoving it down. Since we're shoving it down, it's not a place where it's flowing. Like we're excited and we're living in that excitement and we're dancing with the euphoria that life is bringing. We're holding on to it. And so we're effectively causing almost, stagnant waters or stagnant energy that, in a manner of speaking, is inviting things like mosquitoes or parasites or bacteria that create gross water, right, or are attracted to those gross waters. Well, that's kind of what starts breaking down the mind and the body as well, is that lack of flow. And that lack of flow comes from that rigid need to, I can't hold it in, or I have to hold it in, I can't let it out, I can't express my feelings, I have to rigidly stand here, stoic, no matter how miserable I might be. And when we do that, well, there's a book by Bessel van der Kolk called "The Body Keeps the Score," and sure enough, come to find out, the body does keep the score.
You know, you, we're both in the health I guess world, if you want to say,
Mm-hmm.
sector. And I'm certain with our listeners, even with their own doctors, we don't always practice what we preach. Doctors, I've been to conferences and I see doctors are out there smoking cigarettes, drinking Coca-Cola, and I'm thinking, man, oh man, and hearing you right now, there's a lot of things that I pushed down in my life, and you talk about the mosquitoes. I think it's kind of just stagnant water is where it is, and you're pushing it down. Why is that? What does that stem from in most humans, including myself?
You mean the need to do that? Like, where does
Just
that
push
come
it
from?
down. I come from the era of I think I'm more emotional than most men, but I do come from an era of, you know, get up, wipe the dirt off your face and pick it up again, pick the bootstrap back up. And so but you are right about that. The analogy of toughness versus weakness of opening up and sharing what's going on. It can bring into a lot of confusion, a lot of negative thoughts, which, if you go down the path, it's funny, as human beings, we always remember the one person who broke our heart versus the one who, was the one that, those are the ones that stick in your mind. Can you share about that? How negative thoughts can increase, I guess, pain in your body and pain throughout your body as well as your mind, and what can they do about that?
Well, so it's biological for one, right?
Yeah,
We are created in order uh to be more hyper aware of a danger than, something that might be amazing for us to see. For instance, 100,000 years ago, we're walking through a forest. We're going to need to be able to see that snake in the tree, because that could mean life or death.
yeah,
But if we miss the apple, well, then another apple is likely going to show itself,
yeah,
and make itself available. So it's not that big of a deal. And the way that nature works is that when we see that danger, right, well, that blood is then sucked from the frontal part of our brain into the mid and rear part, which is where all the autonomic functions are. And then the blood there also further gets pulled from our organs, and our life support into our limbs, so then we can, react at a moment's notice. Um, and so this is, a very natural part of the human organism. Now, we add to that culture and cultural upbringing, and as Americans, well, I mean, we're a warlike people. We use it in our discourse: war on poverty, war on whatever. We've got a czar for this or that. And when in war, there's not really time for anything other than to rub dirt on it. And even if you look at our education system, right, our public education system is built on a model that was created for the late 1800s in order for the Industrial Revolution, because it was meant to help produce warlike products, and get us into a place where people were smart enough to be able to run the machines, were smart enough to be able to handle a problem on the manufacturing line, but also weren't curious enough to ask a whole lot of questions and could remain compliant. So it's really a matter of shut up and do what you're told, with a culture of war and more war. And then it's really no surprise that the average American, I mean, it's so common to hear Americans say, "I'm my own worst enemy," and often say it proudly, right? "Oh, I'm my own worst critic." Like chopping ourselves off at the knees right before we run a race is actually something good. So I think it's a natural thing that we hyperinflate due to our culture.
you say about we are our own worst enemy, and I think that part of that is that voice in our head, uh,
Hmm.
that either you're not good enough, you can't do it, you're not going to succeed, versus yes, I can do it, shut the hell up, I am number one, I am capable of doing this. And so I think we all go through that. I have gone through it, I still go through it on certain things. It's like, and it's almost like I don't want to say it's a self-sabotage, um but and when I hear that voice come, I'm like, I literally will say, "Shut up, get out of my mind." How does this tie into with your patients? With The reason I say that, I've gone on races before, and I'm like, okay, I can feel my knee hurts or my ankle hurts, and come on, I need to. And I finally say, "Stop." Over, your knee's fine, your ankle's fine, your breathing is perfect. Let's do this. And all of a sudden, you get that mind shift, and all of a sudden, I'm flowing. I don't say like a cheetah, but I am flowing and everything's moving. So how can you tie that into what you're doing with your practice, with your clientele, on um, I'm sick, I'm in pain, I'm not going to be good enough. It's just part of my age. And I hear that every day from the clients that call us as well. And I say, get that out of your mind.
Yeah.
You're still young. And I do this with my mom. You know, my mom's 86 and I still ride bikes with her. And she'll start doing it. I'm like, time out, mom. You're not old. Get that thought process. She goes, and she'll come back. She goes, you know what? Thank you for reminding me to get that mindset. And so, can you talk about quieting the mind, not only for helping people achieve their goals, but in this case, help eliminate maybe the pain receptors that are going, and talk about how strong the mind is when it comes to
Mm.
getting at, because that's how I've always lived my life. You know, of visualization, mindfulness, breathing, and visualizing stuff. And so, can you talk about that? I think you do a lot of that in your practice as well.
Yeah, great question. And so, Bruce Lee used to say, be careful how you talk to yourself because your body can't help but to listen. And he
Yeah.
said that there's a reason why we call it spelling, and we cast spells all over ourselves and others all day long. And so, when a doctor comes in who, is, 50 pounds overweight and, like you said, smoking and drinking, whatever, and then they say, oh, don't you know that you need this pill to be healthy? But if you don't take this pill, well, I'm sorry, there's nothing more that we can do. And that's I think doctors in many ways kind of victims to the culture, right? Because the culture of hospitals, right, they end up being influenced by their largest donors, right? I don't think that there's a doctor that meant to cause harm to pregnant women by telling them to smoke. Their donors told them to tell pregnant women to smoke because it was good for them. I don't think doctors purposely wanted to cause harm to people who were getting heart attacks, and they said, hey, cut all fat out of your diet and replace it with sugar. And then, coronaries and cardiac arrest went through the roof. um, or even with the opioid epidemic, I don't think it was doctors that purposely try to maliciously lie to people and say, take these opioids because they're safe and non-addictive. The problem is the culture behind that is a culture of no matter what happens, if we find out that opioids aren't safe, which and they are addictive, well, no matter what sort of fine is going to come about, um, they're going to make more money than the fine. So we've got to understand that if a doctor tells us something that works for us, we'll lean into it. If it works for you, lean into it, right? Lean into what works. But you know what? If you have arthritis and you're going to the doctor and the doctor says, hey, just take this pill. You take that pill and it makes you constipated. Not only does it make it constipated, but then it starts, messing with your ability to think, and messing with your ability to sleep, and messing with your quality of life. Well, those are signs that your body's telling you, hey, there's something not right, right? Tune in. And a great way to tune in is through meditation. And if, by taking these pills and you feel this way and you continue on, and then it, leads to more degeneration, okay, well, now you've got to get your ankle fused. Okay, well, now you've got to go and, have this other surgery performed. But I think that what we forget is that, there's an intelligence in the body, and that same intelligence in the body built us from a single cell. And that intelligence is still there. It didn't just build us and then forget. But since we're casting spells on ourselves, and those spells come in the form of belief systems, right? BS. Now, when we have too much BS, well, then if just like any computer, right? Go on go on Google, go on Yahoo search, and type in a random query, and whatever answers you're going to get are going to be as good as your query. That's it. And so often we query the universal database in very terrible ways. Why is this always happening to me? Okay, well, what's interesting is that there's a physicist by the name of Dr. James Gates, who I believe is out of the University of Maryland. And he was on a panel discussion, several years ago with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And he was talking about in fractal patterns, right? And, a fractal pattern is also that cell duplication, or even just, orbits of planets around the sun or moons around the planets. And buried within those fractal patterns is actual computer code. And what kind of computer code? Well, very similar to a search engine. And physics has been proving for the last 100 years that everything that we consider matter, right? My hat, my glasses, your shirt, the picture behind you, is nothing more than waves of light, right? And Einstein said everything is energy. Max Planck said consciousness is primary. Niels Bohr said everything that we call real is made up of things that cannot be regarded as real. And so it's important to understand that whatever we are, manifesting, whether it be, pain in the mind, pain in the body, is coming from some sort of belief system. And usually, that belief system comes from something bad happens, that bad thing happens, and then maybe we feel guilty. But instead of dealing with that guilt, we shove it down. And when we shove it down, well, instead of it just flowing and, just like walking from one room to another and going through a corridor, which is kind of what grief is a corridor to get from one place to another, well, we kind of stay there. And if we stay there and stagnate, well, you can't really live a meaningful life in a corridor, right? In a hallway, because there's really nothing there to survive or to thrive. It's only pure survival. And meditation is a great way to be able to quiet the mind in order to start to distance ourselves from all the noise that goes on in here, because we're told by everybody's trying to convince us that they're right. Everyone's trying to convince us that they've got the right product, they got the right way to educate people. And rare is the person that actually goes within themselves to be like, okay, well, what are the answers that are true for me? And that's probably the best thing that we can do. It may not lead you to a 1 + 1 = 2. It might lead you to a path that then has you follow it. And as you follow the path, then eureka, hey, there's the answer. Oh, because that's typically how this happens, is it creates a journey for you to start to walk on.
Yeah, I mean, the journey, I think part of the reason why when we connected of why I wanted you to join me here is because this is what I've gone through over the last 6 years, having my wife pass away. Life is perfect the way we knew it. And all of a sudden this journey that we had planned took a fork in the road, and it's like, why? I had a lot of whys. I still have whys. Why me? Why her? Why us? This wasn't our story. And I had to go deep. And I pushed some things. I mean, my mind was so gone. I mean, I would say you could have sent me, hey John, here are the winning lottery numbers, and I wouldn't have used them. I mean, that's how your mind is just, you hit a brick wall. Like, oh, which one? If you would have sent me an email that long, I wouldn't be able to respond. You send me this one, then I could put I could put words together and respond to you. But it was tough, and it's been a journey, and I still do it. And so talk about the power of the mind. I think I shared with you on our recent call, but I remember I was recently in a race, and a running race up in the mountains, and I was just flowing. And I remember saying to myself, I made it. I made it. I mean, I've got, my journey is still going, but when you think you're at rock bottom, like, where do I go? Part of my breath is gone. How do I continue? And it wasn't me thinking of it that I would do anything to myself. It was more, here we go again, pick up the bootstraps, like you say in war. don't cry. I did cry. I mean, it's just like, let's just go do it. Can you walk me through what a tip? Because I work with so many pain patients that are looking for other modalities, other opportunities, other journeys, because a lot of these pain patients have tried everything, and they're on opioids, they're working. Maybe they used 32 in a 31-day month, and then they get flagged saying, hey, you're a drug addict. It's like, really? Come on. Actually, vice versa. They run out on day 28 when they need their pills to 31, and that's when they get the renewal of the prescription. And so a lot of these patients are in a lot of pain, and they're looked at as that they're breaking the law, addicts. And so they come to us of help. Where do I go? And so can you give us a walkthrough of what you would share with a pain patient that would try anything, and this is something they have not tried, and because they do have that, I have pain patients that are afraid to travel. I can't travel here because I have to go see my doctor on this time, and when they'll renew my thing, so I need to plan my trip around that. So it's just negative and negative. Can you share with that, because it affects a lot of people, as you and I both know.
Yeah, it really does. And all that negativity, well, it creates almost like a suppressor field,
Mhm.
around our own energy, and it kind of holds us down, and we feel much heavier, we feel much more sluggish. And you know, when I work with people, the most common feedback that I get is one, even if I didn't know how to meditate, holy cow, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Two, if I have gone through a guided meditation, I've never gone that deep before ever. And then three, wow, I can actually physically feel this. Like I can physically feel the movement of energy. And I've had people, their migraines go away, right? Mid-session, arthritis gone, within a day, torn tendon, right? Went to an orthopedic surgeon. They couldn't help, went to a chiropractor. They couldn't help, went to a physical therapist. They couldn't help. And I took them through nothing more than a meditation. It wasn't even on the same continent, right? They were in South Africa. And a lot of what was with that torn tendon was, tied with a lot of grief. And this lady's husband was wasting away in a nursing home facility, and she had to take care of him because they weren't. And in the process of taking care of him, he's 275, she's about 160. Well, she tore her tendon, but on top of that, she's still working with her arm, still moving him, still trying to care for him. And there's a lot of this, why me? Why does this happen to me? Why us? And then a lot of this resentment, a lot of this anger, a lot of this being, mad at God. Well, hey, if I'm a Christian, why would God let this happen to me? And all this negative energy, well, it gets stored in the body. And it actually, that intelligence I talked about that, created us from a single cell, that intelligence knows how to heal our body, but it can only operate in a way in which we allow it to. And what limits the ability of that intelligence to operate is, again, the BS that we have, our belief systems.
Okay.
And so what I did is I had her go and we dissolved her grief. In the meditation, I pulled in her husband and we explored that. And pulled in Jesus even, right? She had a big walk with Jesus, pulled him into the meditation. And she felt more love, more warmth, more connectedness, more peace than she's ever felt. And within 5 days, not only was the pain gone, but she had 30% more movement. So it wasn't just that, hey, the pain's gone. Actually getting physical, I can literally see and feel how I'm physically improving. Within 3 weeks, she had 70% more movement, in her arm. And it really comes down to, again, that wave of light is effectively in a state of possibility. And then that state of possibility can be really anything. And what happens is it collapses into that particle. And just like if we had an ice cube and that ice cube had, some, toxicity or, just things in there that we didn't like, right? We can chip away at the ice and destroy the ice and work really hard to try to get those impurities out. But the simplest thing is to actually go to a higher vibrational state, turn it to steam, which steam is nothing more than ice at a higher vibration. All those impurities fall out. And then when it comes back to ice, well, there you have it. Now you've got pure ice. And I think that's probably the best map that I can create for how this works and why it works so rapidly, is because it actually goes and remakes those belief systems. Because those belief systems, at part of the operational base core, well, it really deals with our soul, right? Because what lives in the realm of light, well, it's our soul, right? Because there's something more than this
Yeah.
that creates us, right? We know that consciousness is more than a function of the mind, right? The brain doesn't create consciousness. And to tap into that which creates consciousness, because again, Max Planck said consciousness is primary. So if our belief systems are what's truly creating that consciousness and putting that holographic consciousness onto the substrate of the world, well, just go straight to the source. When you go straight to the source, everything changes.
He's talking about source. How has this helped you with your healing personally? I know you've gone through some things as well, and I don't know if you want to talk about it publicly. Maybe touch up a little on the iceberg, I'll say,
Yeah.
of how this has helped you and how you ended up here.
Yeah, no, I love it. A great question. And so, I was raised in a family that didn't really know love, a lot of child abuse, both physical and mental. And, for a long time, I was the kid who was just running away. And so I had a big chip on my shoulder. right? And that chip on my shoulder basically meant I need to attack you before you attack me, because somebody's going to get attacked and I'm feeling threatened the second that I'm having any sort of interaction, right? Anxiety's rising, my heart rate's going up, because life is very unfriendly to me, the way that I was raised.
Yeah.
And then later joined the army, right? My first war zone was 8 days after September 11th, which was strange. And less than a year after getting back, went to my second war zone. And so I had a lot of hangups, and that chip was growing exponentially bigger. And I ruined a couple of marriages. I had a hard time with taking orders, so was a bit malcontent
Yeah.
at my job, wasn't the best employee. And so I had all these areas where I was getting in my own way. And then when I started learning how to heal, right? Because I didn't just jump in and start healing others. I had to first heal myself. And, part of that was, just the meditations quieted that noise. And when it quieted all that noise, well, then the signal from my heart, right? The heart's got 40,000 neurons in it. And
Yeah.
the heart is the gateway to the soul. And the heart is almost constantly sending signals to the mind, right? This is something that we can pick up physiologically and pick up with our machines. But that signal from the heart to the mind, right, often is crowded out by just a whole plethora of noise. And so we've got this cacophony going inside our head. We'll never really be able to tune into what the heart is saying. But once I got to that place, I intuited to go to a deprivation tank. And it's like, okay, well, I'm game. I'll do that. I've been watching a lot of Joe Rogan, and he's a big fan of deprivation tanks. So I went there, and I'm doing my healing meditations, and I'm feeling amazing. Surrounded by love, but truth, most importantly, I'd say. And then I got this intuitive sense that I should create the grossest memory of my life. It's like,
Wow.
okay, well, I'm game, right? I feel good. I feel safe, right? So, okay, why not? Let's see where this goes. And, sense again, playing with this idea of, if everything we call matter is collapsed light, well, we probably do live in a hologram. So let me, in my own hologram, in the space where, I'm completely shut out of all my senses, I'll just create this holographic, representation of that memory. And then I'll create the little boy version of me. And so I'm just kind of being guided by my intuition at this point. I've never been taught this. And created this little boy version of me who bore witness to that memory. And then I projected myself as I was, who didn't have parents that could, make me feel safe. I didn't have parents to sit me down and, make me feel loved. And I went and held his hand the same way I'd hold my own little boy's hand, who at the time was, maybe 2 years older than I was. And so now I'm holding my own hand in the same way I'd hold my son's hand. And so now I'm almost stepping into the shoes of my own father, no longer needing this to need that safety from an external source where I can find it for myself. And I was, watching this memory. And as I was watching it, it was coming at me. I could feel the truth just unhooking. Oh, there's no reason to be guilty about this. But so often we know that, but we don't feel it. But since I put myself in the place of just that pure feeling, I could feel it unhook. I could feel it actually removing from my belief systems. And as I was doing that, well, then I was able to give that information back to that little boy. And then when I did that, I crouched down and I gave him a hug and told him I loved him. And I just broke down crying. I gave him the same love that I can give my son. And learning how to love my son taught me how to love myself. But it wasn't until I learned this way of healing that it all clicked. Because so often we get trapped here in the logical frame of mind. And if something doesn't make sense, well, then we get so trapped in, well, how do we make it make sense? Rather than just drop it and just allow it to happen, right? The soul is tied to an intelligence that is so far beyond the mind. And when we get trained and shown how to allow it to operate, how to allow it to take the reins, well, that's when everything changes, because the logical mind will so often in real time transform us into a toddler. And what I mean by that is, the arithmetic usually goes something like this. Hey, does this make sense? This new idea I'm seeing, does this make sense? If yes, well, what's my conditional statement? Yeah. If yes, then where do I take it? Well, if no, well, then watch me in real time fold my arms and tell you that I don't want to eat those vegetables I've never tried.
Well, this takes me back to how we started this, about unresolved trauma. and for you sharing. I wasn't expecting to go that deep, and I thank you, because I've never heard that, uh, uh, that true personal side, and that's deep. And I think we all have that. I mean, I came from a great childhood, but I'm certain I have things that are still, um, pushed down and stagnant in me. And so, taking that step must have been really brave. Of You say you're in a great place, you got there. Did you ever teeter totter thinking, man, am I strong enough to go there? Because it might bring me back, fall back down. But again, having that unresolved trauma, will not allow you to, exceed exceed and succeed to the next level as well. And so, with this, I'm assuming that you're able to share this with your clientele as well. When they meet with you, I know you're in Utah. How do you see people one to face? Are you doing stuff, telemed right now, if you want to call it telemed, or online? How do people, um, meet you, and how many sessions do you generally, uh, uh, request or require with a patient, if you call
Yeah,
it?
great question. So it's important to understand that I'm not, practicing medicine, right? It's a great way for me to get thrown in jail, right? To practice medicine without a license.
Yep.
And so I do everything remotely. I've worked with people across 5 different continents, and because energy doesn't, it doesn't need locality, right? This is all non-local. And as far as how many sessions, typically is 4 to 6.
Mhm.
Really doesn't need much. Almost everyone I work with feel radical changes within the first week. Doesn't mean that everything's fixed within the first week, but they feel like radical changes. Worked with an analyst, military analyst, who spent 4 years in Iraq, right? And this is a guy who's in close proximity to who we'd call terrorists, looking at their phones, seeing the pictures of the kids that they're trafficking, and really, with a lot of darkness. Felt like he also abandoned his family because he was there for 4 years, and meanwhile his wife and kids are back in the States. And so he was dealing with all sorts of just grossness, beating himself up. And taking him through even just a couple of sessions, he just not only was so vibrant, but gave me the most amazing testimonial just about how free he felt.
Good.
Like those chains were just dropped. And it even reminds me of what I'm doing there. They can reach it over the course of long periods of time, through pharmacology, and through so through chemistry and through like psychology. And there's been studies done with MDMA. And I remember listening to a story on, I think it was NPR was doing like the TED Hour talk. And there was an old Marine Corps guy who was going for months, and taking this MDMA. He ended up saying that he took so much MDMA on his last session that he felt like his skin was on fire. And
Wow.
so his psychologist was taking him further and further down, into, because the psychologist needed the MDMA to be the bridge to connect him to his soul, whereas I just used the meditation. But he got him so down into his soul that he found himself wrapped in chains. And he walked up and he broke those chains, and he told, just like a soldier would, hey, I put you here, you can kill me if you want. But instead of killing himself, he integrated, and that darkness that was chained then came into him. And so he still's got the same memories, just like the people that I work with
Yeah.
still have the same memories. You're just not triggered by them, because they no longer have that reaction to go hide, that reaction to need to defend ourselves, because it's now a soft feeling instead of that hard and etched.
Yeah. You being a combat veteran, do you, are a lot of your clientele, also veterans? I mean, I can see how you could relate, and that my cousin was in the very first, desert, war, if you want, desert storm, and
Mhm.
it's affected him. It's affected him. Which, I work with a lot of veteran groups as well, turning to plant medicines, cannabis, MDNA now, ketamine, and working with a medical professional in doing so. And so, I understand, how that can be very, very beneficial for, anyone, especially someone's going through PTS, as well as veteran going through much of that, trauma. Um, what uh, what can you share with my audience? That some final words here. that
Yeah, well, I do work with
how they can find you, one, but also what would you recommend for someone going through chronic pain, grieving, trauma? What can you share with that?
yeah, great questions. Well, I do work with a lot of veterans. I don't only work with veterans
Yeah,
because you don't need to be a veteran to feel like your upbringing was a war zone.
yeah.
Right, and it's pretty unfortunate that we've got far too many, right? There's a reason why, so many Americans feel like, they have, that they are their own worst enemy. And not only that, but we've got about 50 million Americans alone that have, some form of chronic condition. And, it's unfortunate and a very unfortunate reality that if you go to the hospital, chronic conditions we're not good at all of dealing with. In fact, if you look up, you go to Google and say, what's the third leading cause of death in the US? Well, it's a hospital. And yeah, hospitals are the third leading cause of death. And um, so we're terrible at dealing with chronic conditions. When it comes to acute conditions, right? You break your arm, break your leg, it's really easy. But if you've been dealing with a chronic condition, maybe you feel like you've tried everything. Um, and you feel like you just failed. Why? Maybe the most common question is, why me? Why does this happen to me? Why do I wake up every day in pain? Why do I go to sleep every day in pain? Or maybe I don't even sleep. Maybe, like me, I used to beat myself up and rob myself of my sleep every single night, which made life even worse. Well, you can reach out to me at freemefrompains.com. So pains is plural. And there's a free gift there, right? Most people don't know how to meditate, or at least they tell themselves that they don't know how to meditate. Well, there's a free meditation gift, not just to teach you how to meditate, but specifically to start walking you through an introduction to this, magical, if you want to call it magic, right? But it's really just physics that we don't fully understand, but these magical meditations. And I've had people from different countries reach out to me telling me, hey, I suffer from, chronic fatigue. Within 24 hours, I feel like I had 30% more energy, right?
Yeah.
I, had a migraine and now that migraine's gone. And so what it's going to do is going to start to teach you how to meditate. You're going to start to feel changes. And when that happens, that's when okay, so there is something here. And then you can, on that same website, reach out to me, right? You can create a healing plan. We can actually talk, right? Something I'm happy to do, complimentary, and get you to a place where, right, no longer does it have to pull you down every day, but you can find freedom from those pains.
Beautiful. And so can you repeat how they can find you again, please?
Yep. And it's freemefrompains.com.
So that's the pains plural is
Yep.
free me from pains, pains.com. And
Yep.
I'll put your information on in the description below, Joshua. But thank you for sharing what your specialty and your healing powers are, but also your personal. I was didn't hope I didn't put you on the spot, but thank you for sharing. It does helps myself and our listeners as well, showing that they're not alone, and
Yeah.
there are people like you out there who do help and with success. So everybody, this is John Malanca with United Pace Group. Be informed and be well. And I want to say special thanks to our guest Joshua Cameron for joining and sharing his specialty with us today as well. So we'll see you soon. Wishing you all a healthy, happy, pain-free day. We'll see you soon. Thanks again. Bye-bye.